Mr. Eddy?
Here.
Mr. Carey? Mr. Glissman? Ms. Shanks? Mr. Wolber?
Here.
Ms. Wood-Meek?
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Brewster?
Here.
And Chairwoman Wright.
Here. I need a motion to excuse our missing member, Tom Glissman. I am under the understanding that Dave Carey is on his way, but.
Have you heard from any others?
I did not hear from Frederica, and I did hear from Tom Glissman. He had a conflict.
I'll make such a motion, yes. I move that we excuse the absent members.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Eddy?
Here. Yes.
Yeah, to excuse, yes, no?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Mr. Wolber?
Yes.
Ms. Wood-Meek?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Brewster?
Yes.
Chairwoman Wright.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes to the August 28th meeting in the form of a motion summary. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
Roll call?
Mr. Eddy?
Yes.
Mr. Wolber?
Yes.
Ms. Wood-Meek?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Brewster?
Yes.
Chairwoman Wright.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, public comments. We have no public in attendance tonight, so we'll skip over that for now. The next is the arborist report. Doug,
Yes.
the arborist report. Oh.
Yes. I was there.
It's right there.
Okay, so we pruned 125 trees. Had a contractor do a couple prunings for us on some very large trees, doing some dead wooding. Tree removals, 5 from us, 3 from the contractor, large removals. 6 stump removals, 5 with the contractor. We had a total of 47 service requests in the month of September and August. Inventories, there will be, I completed the new development trees location and species for the developers. There'll be a total of 582 new street trees, and then there's 78 developer warranty trees that are going to be planted this fall. They may not plant all of there's some that call for some red oaks. They may wait until spring to do those, just for the fact that they'll stand a better chance to survive. The city itself will be replacing 86 street trees that are not under developer warranty that we have removed in 2000 and 2018 due to the death of the trees or being hazardous. We will probably be uptaking this planting in November, is the way it's looking at this point in time.
Any questions for Doug? No. As we move to a possibly every other month or a not monthly meeting, whatever it turns out to be, if you could just make sure that when you give the report that it says the period of time, I mean, this says September, is that, so we had a meeting in August, correct? So
we're 1 month.
Behind.
Yes.
So is this report
This is for August and September.
Or, okay, that's what I was trying to get at. So it's the August and September totals.
And we have you probably noticed we have a kind of a little bit different arborist report. We looked
Yeah.
at changing the format. One of the things we wanted to do was, as you see the plan review, we have that box with the plan review in there, which is new. I know there's been some confusion, like when did we look at this plan? So we're going to keep these on there until the plan review goes through its whole process.
Yeah.
And then that way they'll be on there. Not every plan review has a tree survey on it, but the ones that do, those are the 3 items, and we'll put dates in there. Hopefully just to try to keep us all on the same page, and so that we can see when those come through. And if you think that's helpful, we can keep doing that. And if you have any other tweaks to it, please let us know. But do you like that format as it is there?
Seems pretty comprehensive, yeah.
we'll tweak it like some of those comments Susan just mentioned tonight, so with the date on there.
Yeah. So the plan reviews that are listed on this page, that's what we will be reviewing tonight. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And then if they're approved tonight, then we'll be putting the date in. So next time you see this report, it'll have the date in there. When it was approved, that the
Okay.
landscape plan was approved.
So am I correct in that neither the tree survey nor obviously not an inspection's been done? Is that,
Right.
These three actually, they were not surveyed
Okay.
because they're open land.
gotcha. But on a different
Yep.
situation, typically the tree survey would be done prior to us looking at the plan or not necessarily?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And then we would put the date when the tree survey came in. So you'd see that tree survey. So you could see what caliber inches they need to replace. And just so it's kind of, you see as the plan moves through the whole process.
Yeah, okay.
So for this, would you just put NA since it was,
Yeah, we'll probably do something we just put NA that way. There's no confusion that, well, it was missed. No, it's just not out of the
Groovy.
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Any other questions for Doug or for the new format or anything related?
I have one comment and one question. On the way over here from the office, just a few minutes ago, somebody sent a message to Nextdoor. I'm on Nextdoor. And the headline is Carson Farms Park, and it is a positive message. So Jason Stake in West Delaware says about Carson Farms Park, thank you, City of Delaware, for having our trees trimmed at the park. All kids who love to play around the trees will be much safer with all dead limbs trimmed. Okay, so an appreciative message from the public. My question is, on Park Avenue, adjacent to Ohio Wesleyan, I noticed a couple trees are missing. Just the stumps are left. I don't recall these trees being dead or deceased. The stumps look, pretty healthy. There's no rot. So I'm wondering, what was the rationale for removing those trees?
There was more than 50% of them dead in the top
Okay.
of the tree, so they were removed for that fact.
All right, fair enough. Okay.
Were they old trees, younger trees?
Probably 40 years old,
Okay.
maybe a little younger.
Maples?
Maples.
So mid-sized trees, not
Yeah.
ginormous
Yeah.
ones. So that I found that puzzling a little bit. But the explanation makes perfect sense. Thank you.
I have one more question that I forgot to ask before, but does this report incorporate the report that we used to get from Linda? I see service requests are on here. Is that,
Yeah.
It's all-
that same information.
Gotcha.
Just try to put it in zero format.
Yeah. anything else?
Yeah, I have a question. When we do tree plantings, is there a follow-up program as far as watering and getting them established, or they just planted and hope the weather cooperates?
We do have, we provide the door hanger for the homeowner, asking them to water. When it is under contract with our contractor that plants the trees, that if we deem necessary, they would come in and water for us 3 times, and then also we can go out and water if necessary also. We do rely on Mother Nature a lot to water.
Okay. Have you ever tried using, I think they're called gators, the automatic waters?
Gator bags?
Yeah, the bags. that you
We've
sell.
used them in park plantings and stuff where we can control them. Unfortunately, on city streets, the kids rip them off, throw them in the streets, and there's vandalism to them, and they disappear, and the homeowner decides they don't like them, so they take them away. And so we don't use those on the city tree or plantings on streets, but we have used them in the park settings
Have they
before.
been successful?
I would say they are, as long as they get filled up with water on a regular basis. It's not we don't really have a watering system set up where we go out and have a specific crew to water. It's a as-needed basis.
Well, okay. If you're using them, wouldn't it be wise to dedicate or?
Well, typically, if we are using them, it's because it's a new planting, and we would keep an eye on the tree and fill them when it's necessary to be filled. You know, if we have a half an inch of rain, you know, in a week, we won't refill them, but.
Understandable. Okay.
And that's going to require the tree inspection on that plan review. After the tree's been planted, Doug will go out and inspect the trees after a year. Is that right?
Mhm.
And then if there's any to need to be replaced at that point, then we notify the developer and they have to replace those trees. So that's the other, the last part of the phase of the plan review.
Anything else? If not, I want to just interject that Dave Carey joined a meeting. So for the record, looking for my agenda here.
Here.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the discussion of the zoning code, and Dave Eflin is not able to make it due to illness. So in lieu of his participation tonight, one of the members of his staff created a sort of a report that sort of covers a lot of the information that we were going to talk about. I know nobody's had time to look at this, so there's probably not a lot of questions at this point, but we're hoping that Dave can perhaps come to the next meeting, the date of which we'll discuss later.
Yeah. That's the plan. Dave was sick last night for planning or city council, and the illness continues today. So apologize for that. He wanted to get something out, so we looked at this. Lance put together this. Lance works in the same office as Dave. He put together this kind of an explanation of, I think, straight zoning versus planned mixed use zoning. So you know, it might be helpful in explaining some of the differences in there, but we'll definitely invite Dave to the next meeting then.
Okay.
I think that the most important pages are page 1 and 2. There's not that much reading. The rest is simply a copy of the city's tree ordinance, section 1168. And apparently the city, you know, unbeknownst to me, yesterday is the first I heard about it. Apparently the city is making a difference between straight letter zoning district and a PMU, you know, planned mixed use overlay district. And different rules apply. Different rules for tree preservation seem to apply. You know, to me that's totally, I'm totally blindsided. You know, that comes as a surprise to me. So I'm looking forward to an explanation.
Yeah, that's straight out of the ordinance. So it's part of the ordinance. I think that was into effect in 2004. So yeah, that's just the pages after page 2 are just straight out of the ordinance that explain the differences between the two zoning districts, between straight and planned.
So just for my own education, a typical section of a residential development that we look at every month and approve the plans for, is that what they call straight letter zoning typically? That's
Straight zoning is kind of like R1,
correct.
R2.
Okay, so
and
those would be.
It's hard to say yes on
Okay.
that, but it's basically if we have zoning map and there's areas that are zoned R1, R2 now, and with the straight zoning, they go to the straight zoning code, and if they go into an area and they want to do a planned mixed residential or planned mixed use overlay or something like that, then they have a different set of codes per our ordinance.
Okay.
So yeah, that's nothing new. It's been in our ordinance
Right.
for a while. So, but there is a difference between the two.
Okay.
Well, things are even more complicated than that because, you know, last night they talked about the Wesleyan, first reading of the Wesleyan Inn project.
Mhm.
That's a good example.
The what? Say that again.
The Wesleyan Inn is the development by Jim Maynard, you know, on West William Street. When I brought up the subject in June, you know, and I before planning, and I wrote a letter that city council received. There was talk about tree preservation. The developer did not have to replace or pay for all the trees that he removed, that he was planning on removing, because he preserved them. Now, last night, if you read the details, the story has changed. Now it's a straight letter zoning district. Nothing has changed. There's no rezoning. But it is a straight letter district now, and our tree preservation rules now apply. Every tree that is going to be removed, and some will have to go, the developer will have to replace or pay the appropriate fee in our tree bank. So, the same development, different rules for the same development. So I'm a little confused, about all that. So again, I'm looking forward to a detailed, explanation.
Yeah, and I'd encourage, part of the details will be in some of the zoning code and that are attached to that also too. So, and that is a good example because it's basically, and it's not just trees that when you go to a planned use, there's variances, or not variances, but
lots of things change.
Yeah, textures and siding or windows and heights of buildings. So those can be changed too. In straight zoning, this is the way it is.
Yeah, okay.
So, sorry for interjecting here. So, the plan is to put that back on the agenda for the next meeting, and hopefully either, David or Lance will come and do some.
Yeah, and I would encourage you to read through the memo and mark down any questions and bring those to that next meeting.
Okay.
So the next item on the agenda is staff comments, and maybe it would be a good time to talk about our upcoming meeting schedule. Who wants to lead that? Do you have a proposal, Ted?
When is our next meeting scheduled?
Well, the next meeting would technically be Christmas Day, and so we were talking at the August meeting about having a meeting in November. In lieu of, just like we did for the Parks Board. I was explaining earlier to Madam Chairwoman that Parks Board was supposed to meet in September, but because it was Fair Week, we gave them the option to either meet during Fair Week or hold their meeting in October, and they all chose October. So this is where we have some flexibility, because the room is still scheduled for a meeting. But I'm assuming nobody wants to come on Christmas. Could be wrong.
So that would put the November 20th.
I mean, if I don't have to do dishes, I probably.
So
Let's assume that we won't meet on
November
Christmas.
27th.
Yeah. I think that's better. The other alternatives, if we skip November and skip December, then it's
too far.
January, yeah. And especially since we're missed out on our discussion on the zoning code, I would like to have a meeting in November.
So we just keep that November 27th, if everyone that works for everybody?
Yeah. Other staff comments?
I guess we can go into so during our off months, we wanted to kind of plan a little bit of some of our topics of discussion that you think might be helpful in the community. If you had any to bring or had any suggestions, we'd like to hear those, and we could start planning some of those and basically be for 2019. Did anyone have anything they would, any topics?
Well, let's start with the list that we had sort of thrown out initially, which was something on pruning, something on tree planting, I believe was one, and mulching. That was the other one. Those were the three that I remember
Yeah, those
thrown
are
out
three.
initially.
I don't know if Doug has any more to add to that, but we also talked about when one of the off months doing something in the greenhouse, maybe in the spring, where I don't know if we did some plantings, we potted up some pots or something, some annuals or something along those lines. So that might be a good time of year to do something, because we go out to our greenhouse and do that down and share it on Facebook Instagram.
I guess my big question is who's the techno Facebook share in this group? Because, or, hashtagging and things of that nature.
Yeah, I'm not going to call myself an expert, but I can do some of that. We have
Okay.
a Delaware Parks Instagram page, and I think that's one place we'd share it. But we also have a
Okay.
Facebook page with the city, and we'd share it on there also. So I think we'd push it out through those avenues, but I'm definitely not an expert. But it's not too difficult. I mean, and I'm not talking about a 20-minute video or anything. We could just kind of go over some highlights and some just we got to think of our audience. There are a lot of they aren't as experts like a lot of you are. They're kind of they just want some of the basics, I think, a lot of times. So I think telling them those things and just getting the Shade Tree Commission name out there a little bit more would be helpful.
I do too.
Who's going to be the star of the show? I don't know whether you're allowed to say it. Who's going to be the person who's talking on the video?
I would assume our chairwoman, but
No.
I'm not
that's
sure.
Vice
That,
Chair.
no, that's, I won't say no to the vice chair. I'm just saying, that's the part I stumble over because it's like, as you've presented this, it's like we're just going to show up and we're going to do this mulching thing and it's going to be cool. And that's not the way it works.
No,
Always.
I think I think Doug would be our star quite a bit actually because as our arborist, with proper technique. But if anyone on the board had something some especially or some something they wanted to share, I mean
That's what I think the stumbling block, not the topics. The topics aren't the stumbling block. The
okay
execution to me is the stumbling block,
okay
a good execution. So,
Well, it might get more hits and shares if it wasn't a good execution.
yeah exactly.
If somebody falls in the hole, they can share like crazy.
Yes, Nadia.
Can we purchase videos and have a combination video presentation with experts like Doug in there to answer questions or maybe bring in, like for pruning, bring in some limbs and show them where the crown
Oh,
is.
absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If we, and we might just go out to a tree, and maybe it's even where when we get some warmer weather, we invite citizens out to actually, experience or learn from an outdoor classroom.
Hold it, clinic.
Can you purchase those videos with our funds in the tree?
What do you mean purchase the videos? Like,
Oh, you already have them?
well, I was thinking of making them.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it'll be too difficult. And, we can also put it out to the public too. I can put it out on our Delaware Parks to ask the public if there's any questions they have that pertain to, trees and any questions they might want to answer.
I've been getting a lot of questions from people about what species to plant, and what varieties to plant,
Okay.
and what does well, and what we consider invasive that we might want to discourage people from planting.
Okay. That's a
And that
great
might be a
topic.
good subject.
Yep, that would be a good subject. One quick hit we could put out real quick is I always get the question this time of year is, do you cut down your native grasses right now?
Really?
That might be something, it's a little bit off topic, but, just little quick hits like that might be something good to push out there too. I don't know if we have any grasses we're cutting down anytime soon.
I have to believe that on YouTube somewhere there are channels and channels of gardening advice.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
And so is the city opposed, if we reviewed some of these sites and some of these little story vignettes and said, this is a great exercise, we should not try to reproduce something that's done this well. Will the city link to that, or can we?
Absolutely, we can
Okay,
absolutely link to
okay.
that.
There's no, you have no policies against linking to external sites from,
Not that I'm aware of.
I can't answer that.
I know, I'm not sure. We'd have to check on that for sure. but,
okay.
I mean, if it's just a link.
You'd have to make sure one, it's not copyrighted. I don't know. I think some YouTube things could be.
Okay,
I don't know.
okay.
We'd have to check with Levy.
I feel like maybe what you're, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like what you're leaning towards is making the Shade Tree Commission relevant to what, being relevant to what are we doing here? What does the Shade Tree Commission do? How are we we are behind the scenes looking at some of these monotonous ordinances to make sure that, well, our tree canopy is being preserved. But also, are we supposed to be giving advice? Are we creating a buzz for what we do here in Delaware by making it personal with our own Shade Tree Commission, as opposed to outside videos or outside people? I mean, when I signed on for Shade Tree, nobody said, hey, we're going to make some Facebook videos and put them out there. I'd have been like, no, I'm not really sure I'm into that. But is that maybe what you're going for, is to get a little more?
I guess one of the things is to answer a lot of questions we get. Also, like, we get a lot of questions on pruning, like, why did the city prune these trees the way they did? And so if we can answer some of those questions before they come in, that'll save some time also. But it's also just an educating the citizens about some of the common questions that come up in the city.
Okay.
I think I have something to add to that topic. In part of our mission in the Shade Tree is public outreach and education. And so that's a good jumping off point to talk about this iTree canopy that I'm playing with, right? So this will give us an estimate of the tree canopy in the city, right? And so I have some handouts, things you can take home and look at. And so if we think the canopy should be augmented and we should probably have more canopy than we do now, one of the ways to do that is to say, hey, citizens, you can plant trees in your yard. We have videos to kind of show you how to do that. And it would add in these specific ways. You talk about the canopy, but the benefits of the canopy and what it does as well. And then people can plant trees or not. Maybe we could move the needle a little bit in that way, right? I was going somewhere else. I just lost it. Anyway. Oh, yeah, with the quantitative benefits as well as part of what this will output. So maybe towards the end of that, so we have some other things to point to. If this is something that we think needs action. Where I was going was the city is already doing its part. The parks are getting pretty full of trees. Maybe the newer ones not as much. The city, we already have ordinance for street trees that are pretty robust relative to a lot of places, right? So there's only so much the city can do to plant. We can still preserve as much as we can. That park down across from the Y, that's a great option, right? So we're not tearing stuff down there. But the city doesn't own most of the land in the city, right? I mean, it's all private. It's mostly private ownership, right? I mean, that's kind of how it works.
Right.
So citizenry is really going to be the ones to move the needle on that.
On canopy cover.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, visibility is good. Outreach is part of our mandate. So, and the web is where the people are, right?
Well, one of the things that I think, this is not necessarily an outreach thing, it might be leading to an outreach thing, but we've talked about this before, but I would like to take a portion of a meeting and go through our website and what is linked, what is available and what is not. Because we've talked about our website and we've all maybe looked at it independently, but we've never had a hands-on looking at it on the screen, talking about it. And that would be a wintertime activity. You know, all these things are going to be great for summer or spring, but I think that's something that our outreach efforts might benefit if we gave some significant thought to our website and what could be added to enhance it.
The website too, can answer many questions that the public may have, about pruning and species, etc. Frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
Do we have such a section? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we do, but I don't know that for sure. So
For
I
the
believe
approved
there
tree
is
list.
a section, but frequently asked questions, but I don't think it pertains so much to trees.
Yeah.
Like city income tax,
Yeah,
water
it
bill
has more to
payment,
do with.
how to make a police report. These are things that we can talk to Lee about and see, he runs the website.
But we don't need him here to look
No.
at the website
But you
and
do
critique
need
it.
to know our website is designed currently by a program that it's like a template, so we can't completely reinvent it.
Yeah, content management, yeah,
So we have to like play with what's available and how to use it.
right.
Does that make sense?
But let's just say, for instance, I don't know, let's say that there's no easy way to find a link to what trees are recommended for planting. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not, I don't know, but let's just say it's there, but the link is not, the link could be clearer.
It's not, right, and that is.
Those
actually
kinds of
something we've
things
been
are-
discussing
yeah.
is how to make it a little bit more.
User-friendly,
If you don't know where to go, you won't. find
right,
it.
right.
Well, our website is based.
And if you think you know where to go,
Sometimes you
Our-
can't
might
find
not
it.
find
Our
it.
website is, I think it's a little bit more user-friendly on a device
Mhm. Yeah,
than so much on the computer. It's a searchable site, so it's not so much where you're supposed to find drop boxes. You know, it's meant to like enter your
Mhm.
search and then
Mhm.
it'll take you somewhere.
Okay, that's
But a
helpful.
lot of people are used to, when they get on a computer, you know, you scroll and you see a drop. And so that is something we've talked about it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you say that that's something that you guys are working on to add to
The website.
the website is?
Well, we're always working on the
commonly asked
website. I mean, we can, if there's something missing on there, like there's a link that we need or something, we can always look at how we can incorporate that into it. But I mean, it's always updating. You know, as things change, we're incorporating different things in this section of our website and this section. So it's always being updated. But I think that's a good point. What Susan brought up is there's opportunities in that website where, you know, especially this board, if they hear that, well, there's a lot of confusion about like what trees you can plant on the streets, then maybe we need to do something to update our
Mhm.
website like on that. That's just an example. But
Mhm, mhm.
so yeah, I think there's definitely some opportunity there. And to along what Mr. Kerr was talking about, you know, the part of the duties of commission, you know, to assist, I don't want to read the whole thing, but to assist the residents of the city in dissemination of news, information regarding the selection, planting, and maintenance of trees within the corporate limits. So I think to that point, there's some education opportunities that we can look at to you know, try to, you know, assist the city or the residents with some of the things they see.
Are there links to say, if somebody went to the city website and they wanted to find the city Facebook page that had the video that linked to pruning, as opposed to adding the pruning video to the Facebook page for the city? I mean, somebody go to the city and go, oh, here's the Facebook page for such and
A specific
such.
link to that one Facebook.
Well, to just the Facebook in general, that's for Shade Tree or whatever it may be that we're going to be possibly putting information on. I mean, are they going to work in conjunction?
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
I gotta believe there's a Facebook link. Yeah,
There's a link to
Yeah.
Facebook. but I
yeah,
don't-
there's a Facebook link right on the city's homepage.
Groovy. Okay.
Right, well, I would assume that the videos or whatever would be hosted on the city's website on the server somewhere.
Sure.
And it probably gets linked to in various places through Facebook and on some radio button, as well as under the City Tree Commission
Sure.
section in the website. I would assume there would be more than one place to get to that. site.
Yeah, I think that would be our goals, yeah.
That would be the nice thing about having it a city thing, I guess, is if it belongs to the city, it's on the city server, it doesn't disappear. If it's a link to an outside thing, a lot of times, if you're not constantly checking on those, all of a sudden those links go nowhere.
Right.
So that can be a problem too.
Yeah.
Well, we upload everything to the website. So
Yeah.
we transfer from the server there, but they're not connected. Like it's a copy and paste onto the website, but we can save things on the server.
Yeah.
We have
It's in the parks, I think.
Hmm?
It's not there.
Any other suggestions on possible outreach?
I have a thought on
Opportunities.
possible outreach.
Sure.
So if we're going to maybe change up our outreach, are we changing up all of it? I mean, are we reconsidering the 3 community events we do in the spring?
I don't think that was anything that I have heard mentioned.
I just wondered if we're going to, I mean, if we're making changes, are all of those items still as relevant? Or is
Yeah.
this something that we need to baby step into for 2019?
I thought the outreach efforts that we're discussing right now were more in lieu of the monthly meeting.
Meetings?
Yeah, to
Okay.
do something more outreachy, if that's the right word, more than April and May when we do it.
Sure.
You know, kind of thing. But
Okay.
we're sort of inventing this as we go along, so I guess anything's fair game.
Okay.
Ted, anything else to add?
Well, you have a good point on the website. I'm not finding too many links on urban forestry specifically within our website. So I
Yeah.
think that's something we do need to
Yeah.
work on and update. I guess I just kind of thought it was in there but I know.
It used to be,
Well, under
Well, you
Parks
can-
and Recreation, isn't there a link to the Shade Tree Commission?
yeah.
Yeah, there's a link to the Shade
Yeah.
Tree Commission, and I know, like, under planning and zoning, you can find approved tree species and things like that.
Somewhere, yeah.
But maybe there's it's something we want to, get an urban forestry link on there too. Especially if we have the tree canopy, just to get that information out there and how people can get it and so, information on that. So I think that might be something we can work on.
So we can improve our page. We can't
Yes.
necessarily improve the discoverability of our page, but we could,
Make it more useful to people.
we could make it more useful and we could think of ways to make it more discoverable. We could incorporate, we can try to, who does the tweeting for the city? Is that Ali?
Lee.
Okay. We could, when spring comes around, we could prep up some possible tweets that goes directly to our web page within the city's website that take people directly there. That's,
So we have a Parks and Services programs, which underneath that is a Shade Tree Commission programs, which has links to our street program guide, tree care information, tree planting restrictions. So that, I think there's some updates that can be done on that. It probably hasn't been looked at in a while, so
yeah.
Correct.
definitely would be something,
We can make it more relevant, that's for sure.
absolutely. That's a good point.
We can add emojis. That makes everything more relevant,
Yeah,
right?
everything else, that's just add emojis.
Anything else on that topic? Any other things under staff comments that don't, on a different topic, other, beyond outreach?
I have one.
We're not in member comments yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
staff, I'm
staff.
sorry. I thought we were- Sorry, I apologize. I do that a lot. I apologize.
Out of order.
Yes.
I'm just giving Ted to his.
No. Did you have anything else, Doug?
I have a list of like 11 things here I came up with while we were just sitting here. Kind of on Dave's kind of inspired me with like what types of trees to plant, recognizing dangerous trees, and when to report that to the city. What does the Shade Tree Commission do? I think that would be an excellent one for people to understand. Because when you say, a lot of people, you say the Shade Tree Commission, they're like, what? What's that? So I think that would be like one to start with right off the bat. Clearance pruning versus crown reduction pruning, because I always get questioned, well, you're not pruning it right because you're not pruning the upper portions of the tree. Well, that's not what we're doing. We're doing clearance pruning. So it would be nice for something like that. what was brought up about watering techniques. You know, people, the way they water, it's a simple, quick way to show some different techniques to put water on a nice slow release onto the trees, and that way homeowners aren't out there with a hose going full blast on the trees. I mean, just simple little vignettes like that would be, 5-minute things to do, and it would be, pretty simple. So I'll put it in a list, and I'll send it out to you guys. The obvious ones, mulching techniques, planting trees. I mean, that's obvious stuff, but
Yeah.
It's the little things like, okay, so now I have this tree, I planted it correctly. It's 3 months old and it's August. How do I water it without all the water just running off?
There's a hole in my bucket.
Well, I think another obvious one is the people understanding easements. There's easements all over the city that, they're out of our control, but, the companies, we try to warn. Doug tries to stay in touch with them and let, people know as much as possible, but they'll come through and start pruning everything. And Linda gets a call right away about why are they tearing up all these trees in this easement? And just so people understand, there are easements on their property. They can research them themselves and find out exactly where they lie on there. So that's a question that comes up a lot.
Mhm.
And some of those easements are surprisingly large, like, 12 feet, 15 feet. Not just the small stuff.
Yeah, because it might be 10 years before they last trimmed it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they come back and it's a big swath they take out.
Shifting gears just a little bit, in September, Ted, you sent out an email about the time of our meeting that we skipped, about the proposed cherry grove at the intersection of 23. Bring us up to date on that.
Brought that up. So we're looking at, and Susie brought up some good points about the, we're looking at doing one species in there. But that area has, on the border of the perimeter, has quite a few shade trees and some evergreens mixed in there already. So, I'm not as concerned as, if something could happen to the cherry tree, it would be a big blow to that area. But we're looking at, moving forward with that. I want to see if there's any other comments on that. That's something a fall project we're planning.
Like this fall, like now?
Possibly, yeah, this fall.
Oh.
So.
I'm sorry, can somebody refresh my memory? What corner are we talking about? Do we
US
be in Pennsylvania or?
No.
US 4223.
That corner. Yeah.
There's a
Thank
big area in there. We've had trouble with grass growing, and I think someone else mentioned that. And that's one of the reasons we want to do something in there. And we realize we're gonna have to put some soil additives in there to around the trees, especially. The variety we're looking at, just something showy. And I know it's depending on frost season, we can get a bad frost that might not, make the bloom as well. But it's still, unless there's any objections, it's still something we wanted to look at possibly doing. And again, we have a good mix of some shade trees and some evergreens that kind of go around that border. It's just an open lawn, and I wouldn't even call it a lawn in the middle. It's just some bad soils in the middle that had trouble with getting grass to grow on. But it also is a nice entry feature to the city. I think it can be showy, and I think this would be one step that we could do some other areas around the city too, and maybe not just cherry trees, but some other areas around there too.
If the soil's bad, what are you going to have to do to it to make it better for the trees?
What were you looking at in there?
We're going to excavate out the holes. We were going to originally, we talked about digging a trench with backhoe and then backfilling the soils. But I think in the end that's not a good plan, because we're not going to teach that tree to start growing into rougher soils.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll still use a backhoe, but we're going to dig out more soil than is necessary for each individual. We'll do each individual tree. There's 24 total trees. Probably going to be either 3 rows of 8 or 4 rows of 6 probably.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more square. It just kind of depends on how it lays out. And we'll dig the holes individually, probably twice as wide on each side as they need to be. and we'll backfill with soil amendment, topsoil, soil amendment, and peat moss to, and fertilizer to get them going. We're gonna use containerized trees, 25-gallon containerized tree. That way we're not, as far as shocking root systems, we're not trying to, we don't want to dig cherry trees and then, then
Yeah.
we have to battle that as well. So we want to use the containerized trees to, that way all we have to do is kind of loosen the roots up and keep them watered and they'll be on their way.
Is there going to be anything else in that planting besides those trees? Is that just?
No,
no.
not this time.
Not this
The
time.
point is to make that a focal point so that for 3 weeks in the spring, there's a really showy bloom right in that area.
Have you tested the soil for contaminants? Is there maybe some toxins in there?
I don't think there's toxin. I think when they originally did that work out there, they used clay back in.
It's basically all hard pan soil.
Yes.
What happens then when the roots leave your hole and hit the hard pan?
By then, they should be hardy enough that they should start digging into the hard pan soils and growing.
What's the variety again? of the tree?
Accolade, cherry.
And we did get some comments about doing some of these in some other city entry points, and not necessarily just the cherry tree, but some other, some type of tree show, like especially on the east side. I don't know if anyone had thought about that at all either, but I don't have an area that's picked out right now, but if there's any thoughts on that.
I'll think about that. I had one other place in mind. On East William, when you go south on 23, there is a little pocket park, at the Delaware Run. There used to be a house, many, many years ago. It was demolished.
Yeah.
And there were plans. I remember plans for a little pocket park, a little, a gateway, a little, flowers and make it attractive, etc. Nothing happened. It's just grass there. It's not an unattractive place, but wouldn't it be great to have a few little, trees, there?
I'm not familiar with where you're.
Just east of St. Mary's.
Yeah, just on the other side of
There's a
St.
doctor's office and then there's that blank. There used to be two sort of smallish houses.
I don't
It
think
it
we
doesn't
own.
belong to the city, right? The city demolished the house.
No, we
think
don't
the
own it yet.
Oh, okay.
I was looking up to see who does on that. I know which piece you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
I thought about that too. It's
I thought Ohio Wesleyan owns the property.
Really?
I don't,
Well, then you give it time, you can plant some turkeys.
yeah.
I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah, it's a nice, it'd be a nice place for trees because that's about all you can really do there.
Well,
I need to talk to somebody at OWU. You might sell it to the city.
Talking about entrances, I know we've got this William Street widening project that's going to be starting, and we never really heard of any plantings or anything that was going to be used to make that.
That piece, it must have recently sold, but the St. Mary's Church bought that.
Oh.
I actually knew the guy that owned the house at Ohio Wesleyan bought it. That's what he told me was Ohio Wesleyan bought the property and demolished the house.
Yeah, so the Diocese of Columbus bought it.
And so
Because
in
it
the
backs-
meantime, St. Mary's has purchased the land.
Yeah.
Okay, good, yeah. You might have plans, for, God knows, for parking or playground or,
Yeah, I'm not sure. But there is some right of way in there that there's some that there's a pretty high right of way, but that might be even an ODOT right of way. But yeah, that we've ended up mowing a little bit of that because it has kind of overgrown in the past. And
well,
it
it's
has-
green, which is good, better than the old dilapidated house that used to be there.
What about any landscape plans for East William Street when it gets widened?
Well, we have the areas around the bridge that is going to be part of that project. If you've seen that. That is, there's trees going in wherever they can go back in there, but it's, with the lighting and the utilities that are in there, it was very difficult. I think there's only maybe 13 trees that are gonna go back in there.
There's not much room. over
No,
there.
there's not. And
Do we have many homeowners that are looking at having them put in their yards? to replace those
not many
trees?
takers on that. I think we
Really?
still have a surplus of trees in their budget to, if the homeowners do want to take advantage of that. A lot of the feedback we got when those trees came out down through there was that a lot of these homeowners were happy that they came out because they couldn't take care of the trees that were in there and in the right of way then, or in close to their house. But we're going to be but we also have those mitigation sites that we looked at, and they're part of it's public works, and I think, can't remember that plan right off, but we looked at that a while ago to replace the ones that did come out of there. But yeah, as far as beds down through there, we don't have any beds planned down through East William. And we also didn't put any trees really near the point area because in the future, there's probably going to be a lot more construction with the new point improvements with the bridge and everything out there. But, when that's all planned and the plans are done, there'll be some additional trees probably in that area. Those will be fun days when that's improved.
I have to tell you, I guess it's sort of related. The new North Sandusky interchange with 23 there into Pennsylvania,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I love that.
I do too.
It looks good and it
Wow.
is so functional. I am shocked at how much I've used that.
Yeah. A lot of people. And we're still working on that landscape. There's a lot of,
I was gonna say,
ground
there's
cover.
still a lot of blank spaces in there.
It's
Yeah,
not
you could
really.
you could potentially put some cherry trees up there.
Those
Put something
aren't all
showy.
weeds you see.
We're still trying to get.
I
the
feel
ground
as
cover.
though somebody planted the shortest time species available as a ground cover in some of those beds. Like that tall, because they're this wide and that tall. Just like a green splotch. So I'm sure
And they
they're
replanted it too.
relatively maintenance free if they live, right?
Do you want to add anything?
You approved them.
Mm-mm. I only got to switch out one grass, and that was, I think, Pennisetum to Sporobolus. So there were some good perennials on that plan. Those beds are just still empty, some of
That's
them.
something we can look at also.
Mhm.
We're planning on growing some perennials this year in our greenhouse, stuffing up our, we had some success last year, kind of our first year ever growing our own annuals. We're really good with black-eyed Susans and Shasta daisies, but we'd like to try some different kinds, and any guidance in that direction would be a good plan too.
Well, that's a great spot. It screams for prairie plants there.
Yeah.
It's windy. They're bold. They have great fall color. And if you prune them late, then the local birds will just eat the seeds. Then you can prune them late. So,
So there is kind of a plan that we're going to try to start filling in areas.
Okay.
We do, I don't know if you know where the Cherry Street recycling plant used to be.
Mhm.
That's been torn down. It's about a 2-acre plot. Well, we moved out to Public Works, and there's about a 2-acre plot there. We're going to plant prairie come springtime.
So all the structures are gone, and those,
Yep. We did leave
those
the parking lot.
containers, and
Yeah, we left the parking lot there for
Yeah,
the new parking lot, and then.
that must have just happened, yeah.
Yeah, left room for expansion of that parking lot in the future, but we're gonna look at, there's a 2-acre prairie plot where a lot of that was. And
I'm going to do a seed planting?
I'm sorry?
You going to do a seed planting?
Yes.
Fun. You going to invite the public to help you plant it?
We could, I was gonna look and see if we can.
Facebook Live event.
A Facebook
There you
Live
go.
event? I helped plant Whetstone's prairie, and it was raining that day, and we just
Did you
schlepped on.
broadcast it?
I didn't have cell phone then.
Oh, I know, I mean broadcast.
Broadcast.
No, we walked around with bags of seeds. Just
Oh.
tossing them, the community did, that was it.
Uh,
We all volunteered and they handed us each a giant bag of seed and we planted that prairie at Whetstone.
Yeah, I was looking at, I think the Soil and Water usually we can rent the cedar. We're gonna try to split seed it to get it in the ground a little bit, and because we're gonna probably have to do it more than once to
Sure.
get the good base in there, and so we'll probably look at doing that soon, and well in the spring.
One concern, a question about the Cherry Street property. I've not seen it yet. I need to check it out. Number of years ago, there was a conversation about having a dog park there. And at that point, I looked at the soil and discovered, because it's a former, recycling plant, the soil is full of metal and glass and shards and dangerous things. So, just a heads up. So either we need to add soil, a foot or so, or remove the top layer. I'm not sure what the solution is, but it was a heavily contaminated brownfield when I last looked at it.
Well, it's a landfill out there too.
I'm not talking about the landfill. I'm talking about the site where the recycling structures were, where people dropped off. The paper and metal and glass
Yeah.
and aluminum.
We're not planning on opening it up as a park, just planting a prairie in there.
Okay.
So there won't really be public, like,
All right,
on
yeah.
the fields, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to let you know that
Yeah, no,
there
right,
is that
yeah,
possible hazard out there.
absolutely.
That sounds like a great solution
I like
to
it.
a problem site.
It is.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of displayed.
It's
You can see it from
visible.
23.
Mhm.
quite a bit,
It's
so.
attractive and it's good wildlife habitat.
But again, I caution also, it's not gonna be a nice looking prairie really soon. The prairies take a little bit of time to establish too, so it takes some time and, we'll stay with it. But once they do establish, it looks good.
Let's move into member comments if there's no other staff comments. I don't want to cut anybody off, but I do want to get out of here soon. I want to hear about Dave Carey's
Me too. yeah.
canopy assessment project.
Oh, okay. Well, I can hand that out.
It's members' comments now. Go, Dave.
Well, I have three things. So I will, one for me. And then we can pass those down and take one.
One of each. All right.
One of each. There's that one. And then I have a third thing here that is unrelated. But since we're passing stuff, I'll go ahead and do it. I already know about that. So anyway, so this tree canopy assessment, oh man, there we go. All right, is a
Tree snap.
Oh, yeah, and tree snap is different. The tree canopy assessment is a web-based tool that relies on satellite imagery, and it's a sampling protocol. So after you get the shape file, basically the polygon of the outlines of the city, the computer, this web tool will just pick a spot at random within that shape, and you designate it either tree or not tree is the simple thing as per the email, or you
Is
can,
that the standard or
well, that's
or
the
not?
simplest.
the simplest?
That's the
Is
simplest.
that widely used or?
Oh,
I know
well-
it's simple, but
Well, it's the minimum
is
for
that
this
what we
tool.
should be using?
Well, it's the tree versus not tree is the minimum thing you can do to assess canopy versus not canopy, right? I mean, just as a sort of a logic problem, right? Now, and if there's interest to know things about how much of this city is water, because we live in Minnesota, we don't, but whatever. How much is tree, how much is pavement, how much is buildings, whatever you want to know, right? With respect to the trees, commonly you might want to think about impervious versus not for stormwater issues. But that's all optional, right? So part of and then it's a sampling protocol. You go through the deeper you sample, the number of times that little hash mark comes up and you decide what that cover is, the more accurate it is, right? And so that's what the standard error piece in these instructions is about. And so, you know, a minimum of 1,000 is probably a good number to start with to get, because obviously there is water in the city. I only did 100 samplings here and there's 0 water on this sheet. So obviously that's not correct, right? So there's still quite a bit of error in here. So it just depends on what you want to do with it. And then that way you don't have to go out and do intensive surveys. Right? And it'll only take, I don't know, I did 100 trees in less than an hour.
So
I mean, just kind of, it's just a little drop down thing and you.
this middle piece of paper is your quick and dirty assessment of Delaware.
Yes.
Based on 100 points.
Just on 100 points. So this is really, really not accurate. And so the plus minus of 4.7 is, I don't necessarily believe that. That's what the stats say, but I don't believe it. So.
Well, 32, I don't believe 32. I don't believe we're 32% canopy covered. That's what you.
Well, with only 40 points, it was 26. So, but anyway, so I have a file started. I can send that out. You all can, this web tool is easily accessible. It's quick and you all can play with it. But the thing that I would kind of like to know, particularly from the staff, is if, how complicated you want these cover classes broken out, or the commission as well. I mean, is there an interest in anything more than tree, not tree?
Yeah, pavement, water, and agriculture.
My original question was, we need to maybe not compare apples and oranges. So my question was really, if Columbus says 16% and Nashville 24% or whatever, what standards are they using? And we should be maybe using a standard that is comparable to what other cities are doing.
Oh, as far as methodology goes?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, there are different ways to sample, right? You can do on-the-ground sampling surveys and pick plots at random and do radius from a particular plot at random in the city. And it's typically how it's done. It's always a sampling method. And it just depends on how you do it. But with this, you're relying on a satellite image, and so it's a lot quicker. You don't have to have boots on the ground necessarily. And once you play with this, you'll understand that it's really pretty easy to figure out what's there. I mean, everybody's played with Google Earth at this point, right? Right, and you can zoom down to the point where you can tell what's there very easily, and zoom back out if what you're looking at, you can't tell if it's a farm field or if somebody's soccer field. You can zoom out and kind of figure out, oh yeah, there's trees around it and whatnot.
But in addition to your time or someone's time in doing it, there's no cost, correct?
Oh yeah, this is all free.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So why wouldn't we go for 1,000 points in all these classifications?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, this is just, I just kind of, there was a display or a demo project, but that I kind of borrowed some of these from. But I guess, and I'm fine doing it. I mean, or we can pass around the file. I'm sick of it and I'll pass it to somebody else and they can add more points to it, whatever. It's really not difficult to do. Basically the only input I would like at this point, assuming that we all still want to do this, is that what the cover classes are, if I'm missing something, or does it need to be this complicated? Or should it not be this complicated? All of those things.
Well, I would like to see all of these categories be part of the sampling effort. I'm interested in all of them. There's some that I'm more interested in others. But my point is, why not do the max if you've...
Oh yeah, well, you can add more to it.
Oh.
The only limit there is if you get the drop-down box too long, you got to find it on your list, right? Yeah. So that's the only limitation.
City of Delaware, right?
Yeah.
And so our agricultural acreage is probably very small. There's some.
Well,
Is that
it's
what
bigger than you
we
think
do?
within the
Yeah.
city limits, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. There's a lot of land within the
There is?
city limits proper, yeah.
Yeah, there's still some, yeah. But diminishing, amount. Yeah, all right, yeah.
I would like to be able to, at some point in time, take the statistics and overlay the city ward boundaries to be able to say 32% canopy cover looks great. But if you look at certain parts of Delaware that might have 10% canopy cover, then we would say, we really need to focus our planting efforts in that area that has 10%.
Okay.
So I don't know that that's part of your methodology. That seems to me to overlay.
You could do that in a sense, but what you would want to do in a situation, if you really want to do it by ward, you do what, there are 4 or 5?
4.
4.
Yeah.
You separate that out at the beginning and you do 4 separate and then you combine them all.
Okay.
That's how you would do that. It's kind of difficult to parse them out later.
Okay. Okay.
Or you can always go, you don't have to use the city boundaries. You could go in and say, what's this neighborhood look like? Draw a thing around it and sample it and know what it is. I mean, it's pretty flexible. So anyway.
When I'm doing trees, as far as planting, for planting, I just use William Street and 23 as my separator. So northeast, northwest, southwest, southeast.
Okay.
That's what I use. I don't know if that's any better than wards or however you want to.
Yeah. The only trick is I'd have to get with Rachel on that again. She's the one who provided me the input file. And that's really not in my wheelhouse. So I would just have to ask her to do that. So if she has ward boundaries already as part of a shapefile, which is probably the case, that would be easy, I'm sure. So anyway. So any other, I'm sorry, Susan.
No, that was my only request, that we be able to look at the statistics by section of Delaware, whether it's wards or whether it's just I'll call it gross divisions that Doug uses, 23 and William Street.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
One of my objectives would be to be able to compare Delaware's canopy with the canopy of other cities.
Oh yeah, you can do
And
that.
so we need to use the same methodology than the other cities have done, because otherwise, if other cities exclude, water or streets or whatever, and we do not, that has an impact on the numbers, or vice versa. So we need to use the same methodology. So
I
that
can
would be my interest.
look into that.
Are we below average? Are we at average? Are we above average? And then take the next step.
I have not looked. I know there are other places that have used this tool, and that there's data out there. How many, I'm not sure, but I can certainly look into that, Tom.
You're not the. Well,
It's easy to
thank
do.
you for taking the initiative, but it shouldn't be your sole responsibility. I think we all need to play a role in this.
Oh, well, I've already kind of done a lot of that
Okay,
research
good.
years
Thank
ago.
you, I appreciate it. Yeah.
But whether exactly the methodology that we used at the time, that I would have to check on.
Yeah.
Because this is a relatively new tool. Okay. But yeah, I agree, that is part of the goal, is to say, okay, is the city underperforming or overperforming in this metric, right? How hard do we have to try to pick up the slack, so to speak, if we need to? Of course. Oh, the last thing to change the subject, I handed out this tree snap thing just because it's something that we ran across at this meeting I was at a little while ago, just to help out research folks. There's a handful of problem species on here, or species that need help, that are getting some research funding and improvement strategies put into them. And so that most of these trees on here, if there are large survivor trees, folks are interested in knowing about those. So as you guys are out and about, a bunch of folks that know about trees and whatnot, I figured this would be a great audience to market this to, somewhat for self-serving purposes, because I work on ash. And there are folks at the lab that work on elm, and some of my friends work on other things on here, just for large specimen trees that could be sampled for research.
What do you consider a large specimen? I mean, is there
There are cutoffs for different species that are part of this, but so for an ash tree, I'd be looking for something like 8-inch DBH or greater at this point, something that was alive when EAB came through.
Yeah.
And that survived that, and it still continued to thrive. Okay, that's all I have.
Great, thank you.
I have a related little article, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The city of Nashville, their tree canopy went down from 28 to 24%. And so the mayor started an initiative, free tree giveaways, etc. So there are the articles about Nashville, Tennessee, about Davidson County and their efforts to enhance their tree canopy. So just some background. You can read that at home.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Also worth mentioning, if you, it's dark outside now, but if you go to the west side of City Hall, there are two beautiful little trees in front of City Hall. There is a Japanese maple tree dedicated to the sister city relation, to sister city Sakata in Japan, and recently planted a memorial tree for Baumholder, the sister city in Germany, which is a weeping Norway spruce. They are sitting side to side. Both are healthy little trees. I like to look at them. And I haven't seen a picture anywhere. Maybe somebody should snap a picture and put it on the city's website or something.
Doug did a great job planting. We had to do this on short notice too. And, the varieties are chosen to stay small too. So,
Yeah, makes sense.
we
Yeah.
get a really big variety in there, so that was good.
Shannon, do you have anything? Member comments? Becky? I have nothing. Okay, let's get on with our reviews.
This is the AEP on Slack Road, the railroad tracks, and then Liberty's further to the east here. This is going to be the proposed service center. And the only trees that are in the right of way, because they're moving the right of way back, this is existing right of way, actually adding a little right of way. So now these Italian maples are going to be in the right of way. I have no issue with those, and then they're backing those up with sawtooth trees. Then in our parking lot, we're going to be putting in
Isn't it a tree preservation area somewhere through? That part, yeah.
They wanted to keep them small, so.
Okay. Yes.
So the developers, I think, are catching on and doing pretty sophistication. And they're using the trees that we use. So it's really one on the windows. I only color coded these just for my purposes, really more than anything else. They already had it split out into diversified on all the streets. I didn't know about the Red Sunset Maple. I think that it's okay, but
Because they drop their leaves so much earlier than all the other maples.
no, my main concern about them is they're such shallow rooted that they could be sidewalk issues at some point in time.
What about the Valley Forge Elm? Is that a highly preferred?
It's on our list.
Is it on it? Okay.
How often do we get hardy rose trees? You come,
I don't usually specify them, but if they can find them, I'd like to see them bring up.
absolutely.
Um,
Okay.
I think, yeah, they're in a program.
Yeah, but I've never seen them.
We don't
See that, I see
There's
them
a-
at Acres.
If you go out to, a really good set of them is out on, it's the last street, Lander and Chase. You come up Lander and Chase Drive, you turn to the left, and turn to the right on that street. I cannot remember the name of it. And if you go back, the first half of the street is maple trees, and the second half of the street is hardy rubber tree.
Nice.
So that's just one side I can think of offhand that are doing very well, even though I was told they were diseased. It's really-
So with red maples, I think it's Sunskull too, is that a problem on Sixth Street?
It is probably. Now that you mention that, I forgot about that part of it too. There was a reason why I didn't do it Sunset.
Yeah. And I kind of remember Chuck Rexroad person as well. I bet you're
So what we do is, I think the maple tree is fine. So I've noticed I'm not really sold on Pacific or the Sunsets either right now. We don't see how they do very well.
What about the sidewalk issue? You know, the Shade Tree Commission researched that a number of years ago. And the city had major concerns about the cost because sidewalks are city responsibility. The city would have to replace them. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. So is that a risk we should maybe consider eliminating?
The city doesn't replace the
City's responsibility, yes.
The tree does.
If it's
The
a
tree
tree,
does.
The tree destroys the sidewalk, the city lies.
Okay.
Well, the maple, one of the maple trees we have on the list are the Norway. Right, the Norwegian maples, and then we planted some Freemans at different times. Autumn Blaze is the one. My street's planted with Autumn Blaze. They're gorgeous right now. They are shallow rooted too. I mean, it's related. They're silver maple mix, so they're kind of shallow as well. I mean, you're never, they're maples. Unless you're planting sugar maples on sugar maple roofs, that's kind of what they are. So.
Do they have the Sunskull from?
Not as common. I've seen a couple that kind of look like that, considering the angle, they might be, but it's not a slant up, but that's what it is.
Is that what we're choosing? Or
Sounds like
do we stuff out of the maples, pick another tree?
I think the maple was a good mix in there.
Right.
There's not any in the rest of the development, so a diversification of it. Because
Sure.
all these areas are plants, there's no maples in those areas.
So what maple?
Why don't we just
switch
switch,
to?
yeah, why don't we just make a recommendation on the species?
Okay.
Varieties.
Varieties, maple.
Yeah.
Sounds like it looks pretty good right now.
Can I write here, is that what you?
That's fine. Again, this is more for our purposes, because when I'll tell the developer what to plant.
Yeah.
When I send my plans. What's that?
Do you know what variety?
Bravani.
Freeman. So, these are Freeman. So just cross out the. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm not going to I am not.
There are. Oh, you already stamped it. Thanks. You can look at it. There are buffer areas also. Again, I didn't see anything, out of the ordinary. I like the fact they're going to try to plant some sycamores.
Yeah. In the buffer. Yeah. I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These areas.
Will be so pretty. I really like this.
There's that location.
Now, the one thing I got to caution about, I mean, this is the first Valley Forge I've ever seen
This gives you.
on a planting like
Yeah.
this. I wouldn't overinvest in it just because it hasn't been on the market long enough to be a proven street tree. So,
Well, that's pretty exciting up here. It's a nice little group of trees.
Racing canes. So 3 different things. It is out of the cold. Yeah. So there really isn't, any, and there's not really, it's clear landscape here, entirely, there's no right of ways or anything.
So 36, 37 is this way or?
oh, Vegas, Nevada, yeah, it'd be nice.
The very accent. I mean, it's hot right there.
It
Yeah,
is
they
hot.
do, but it would.
They're gonna go slow, so. You're right. Yeah.
They put it, and not walk all over the root structure, okay.
Well, most of that, if they're hard to.
And at least it's fun.
And very-
That would be very nice. It's nice to see some different. Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of planting spaces there. No.
Really sorry.
It's not, they did 8 feet wide, and it's 4 feet on the center, and you're not to prove anything. I don't
That's
understand.
the people that chase what they think.
Yeah, but also, what about Huntington on 23 and the little boxwood, they keep putting into this size?
I know.
What, why plant it? They're not gonna, they get this big, I don't know, the way they.
They're pretty natural looking plants, that's for sure.
They're not designed or not wired
The
when
beach
it's done.
trap.
Yeah, you just don't wanna clean the trash.
I won't have to, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying that they're illegal.
And they're gorgeous, when they do fall color, they fall color for a minimum of 2 weeks. As to where your burning bush, they're planted to be 6 feet tall, or 12 feet tall, are red for a day and a half, and then they lose fall. Before, grow low soon after you start changing color.
And then from November until April, the leaves and trash.
Does this need a approval thing since it's just?
And
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
great soil retention, they have to do fiber
Yeah.
structure.
They do.
You have a great,
Structure. I actually would like to have some streets. You know, I think they're probably better.
Would you do something like the planting them along the stream bank and things like that for erosion control? And
it'd be good for erosion.
Definitely. Any ruse would be good, whether it's Tenbina or,
aromatica.
Yeah, you could, but the straight species, if you drop the space for the height, it would be very nice. And look very different than rose and peanut. Most people think look
That's all we have. The other plan that we're doing.
honestly, that I think what you really want to see things is a raise of hands. To tell them. Nothing more importantly.
Gotta try it out, Tom.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it, yeah.
Grease, but a little bit satisfying.
We need a few more, good restaurants and some areas of food, on my side, I live on the west side. There's nothing. No restaurant. On like 36 West, we go to Mary's Road.
Oh,
You want to eat something to eat? There's no place,
Oh, you're right. Well, you have to go up to,
Holders
Central,
in that
yeah.
area, yeah.
Were you working on a contract?
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
We are adjourned. Meeting in November, no meeting in December, probable meeting in January.